Intelligence. Hello, my name is Bob Eggleton from the Two Bobs and a Lorry podcast. And this is our second video in our intelligence series. And today we'll be talking more in depth about specific intelligence tests. In our first video, we introduced the concept of intelligence. What is intelligence? And we talked about various ways of testing intelligence. And the first intelligence tests were developed in France around about 1905 by a researcher called Binet. And he developed a test to test school children and to predict how well they would do at school. It was very successful, but it was quite one-dimensional, focusing on mathematical ability, mainly. We now know that intelligence is multi-dimensional. And also, we have two specific types of intelligence, fluid and crystalline. Fluid is how fast the brain can process information. Crystalline is intelligence we develop over time. It's based on knowledge, experience, and how our problem-solving skills improve over time. There are other types of intelligence we'll be talking about today: analytical, creative, practical skills. So let's move on to some specific intelligence tests. Okay, so there are two approaches to measuring intelligence: information processing, how fast the brain works, the more fluid type of intelligence, and psychometric instruments. And it's the psychometric instruments we'll be talking more about today. So the definition of a psychometric test is it's an objective measurement of a latent construction that can't be observed directly. So we're looking for groups of factors that we can test and then measure how they interact to determine some aspect of intelligence. A simple example, someone who has a good vocabulary, which we can measure, should be good at verbal reasoning. And we use a statistical approach to do this, something called factor analysis, but we'll talk about that at a later time. One of the first psychometric measures was developed by a researcher called Wishart. And again, he developed a series of scales that could be measured. It was mainly designed for adults, and it proved very successful. And Wishart believed that there were specific measures, specific aspects of intelligence that could be isolated and tested. He was also an advocate of the idea of non-intelligent factors. So why are non-intelligent factors important in intelligence tests? Well, there are many factors which determine how well we can solve problems, or how well we can't solve problems. Lack of confidence, fear of failure, and others that we shall detail, but we won't go into all of them. And that brings us on to our second important theory, developed by a researcher called Gardner. And he developed 8 specific types of intelligences. Rather than read these out, I'll just put a slide up here that you can look at your leisure or just jump over if you want to go into the next part. Now, this was very successful, this theory by Gardner, and also led to other things like testing for job skills, looking at specific intelligence types that suited specific job roles. And also, this theory had a biological basis. So it could predict things like savants, prodigies. These are only two of the many scales that are out there, but we feel these are important because it opens up this idea of multiple intelligences. In our first video on intelligence, we spoke about cultural differences and how we had to have intelligence tests that were culturally non-biased. Understanding that there is not one single type of intelligence, there are, as Gardner put it, there are up to 8, we can have a better understanding why there would be cultural differences. Different cultures put greater or lesser value on different types of intelligence. Some cultures might value creative and art and music more so than other cultures. This also leads to another question. How does our environment lead into our development of our intelligence and our appreciation of our intelligence? To conclude this video, and the point of this whole series is that intelligence is a multi-dimensional process. It changes over time. We lose our fluid intelligence, but gain more in our crystalline intelligence. And the aim of this video is to help people not only understand their own intelligence, but to appreciate their own intelligence. Again, my name is Bob Eggleton from the Two Bobs and Laurie podcast, and thank you very much for watching this video.